In this lesson on SSNQs, I'll provide a comprehensive explanation and 25 practice questions. I recommend taking notes, at least when we begin the practice, so be sure to have a way to do that, whether with pen and pencil or digitally. One of the biggest differences between written and spoken English is that in spoken English, we leave out words. Leave out means omit. The omission of words is called ellipsis. Omission exists in written English too, but very rarely compared to its prevalence in spoken English. In written English, when you see 3 dots, one thing it represents is ellipsis. The other, if you're curious, is to indicate a pause in dialogue. Ellipsis is very common in conversations, especially when asking follow-up questions. A follow-up question is a question you ask in response to something someone has said, and there's an art to asking follow-up questions, but that's a topic for another video. Follow-up questions ask for more details. They help keep a conversation going, and they help develop a conversation. The topic of your conversation may change depending on an interlocutor's answers and the follow-up questions that are asked. I have analyzed the way elliptical questions are created, I have dissected the grammar, and I have come up with 5 rules that we follow when asking elliptical questions. I have named these elliptical questions SSNQs, which stands for short, simple, natural questions. SSNQs are not created randomly. They follow very distinct patterns that maintain the grammar of the original longer questions from which they are derived. For each SSNQ that exists, there is a longer grammatical question that they are based on. In this video, I'm going to teach you the system I invented so that you can fully understand the special kind of ellipsis. It's going to be challenging. When I have taught others this system, the most common response I hear is, "It's hard, but it's easy." That sums it up well. It is going to be difficult, but I promise by the end of this video, you'll be thinking, wow, this makes speaking English and asking questions so much easier. It's a piece of cake, which is an idiom that means something is really easy. One reason my students love SSNQs is that once you learn them and understand them, you can speak much more easily and smoothly because you don't need to worry about translation and grammar. By listening carefully to what someone says, you can pick out the main topic and use an SSNQ to ask about it, though, of course, SSNQs are not always possible. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. Let's begin with the rules. It's common to omit verbs and other parts of speech that are not necessary, but you cannot just freely choose which words to omit. Let's look at the 5 rules. Rule 1. You always need a question word, so you need who, what, when, where, why, how, or which. Rule 2. You use no more than 3 words, otherwise they are not short. SSNQs can be formed with 1 word, 2 words, or 3 words. This is not true of all elliptical questions, but for this system we are sticking to 3 words or less. Rule 3. You can leave out most of the information you're not asking about because you and the other speaker already know the information. Thanks to context, the information does not need to be repeated. In fact, it would be unnatural to repeat it in many cases. Rule 4. Question words usually combine with a common noun. For example, test, movie, song, book, etc. Or a preposition. For example, about, at, to, for, from, or with. Rule 5. Question words do not usually combine with verbs like see, have, go, and do. But there are exceptions. Exception 1, SSNQs can be created using ing verbs, but the verb must come before the question word. For example, studying what, cooking what, doing what. Exception 2, SSNQs can be formed with who and a main verb. For example, who won, who went, who left. Before we jump into some practice, let's look at an example in context. Here is a conversation without ellipsis. What'd you do over the weekend? I watched a movie. Note, even here we leave out over the weekend because it isn't necessary. That's nice. What movie did you watch? Now, before going further, can you try to figure out how we might shorten the follow-up question, what movie did you watch? So, rule 1, you need a question word. So we start with what. Rule 2, we can't take more than 3 words from the full question, so we need a maximum of 2 more words. Rule 4, question words usually combine with a common noun. So what is the common noun in the original question? Typically, these come immediately after the question word. In this case, it's movie. Now we have what movie? Let's see if we are done. Rule 5, question words do not usually combine with verbs, so we would not add did or watch. And this leaves us with our SSNQ, what movie? So here's the revised conversation with the SSNQ. What did you do over the weekend? I watched a movie. That's nice. What movie? Let's get started with some practice. I'm going to give you 25 situations and longer questions. Try to figure out how to create an SSNQ from the longer question in each situation. I recommend pausing the video to take some time to figure out the SSNQ. The more you do it, the easier it will get. Are you ready? Number 1, I went to a restaurant. That's nice. What restaurant did you go to? So take a minute and think. You could pause the video. What do you think the SSNQ is? SSNQ, what restaurant? Number 2, I'm studying for a test. Oh yeah? What test are you studying for? Again, take a minute to think of your answer. Pause if you need to. And we have the SSNQ, what test? So same construction as the last one. Number 3, I'm studying. Oh yeah? What are you studying? Pause. Studying what? So for this, see Rule 5A for how it was created. Number 4, I watched the game between Brazil and Korea last night. Really? Who won the game? Take a minute. Go back to the rules. I recommend writing notes about the rules so you have them in front of you and you don't have to go searching for them. And for this, you want to see Rule 5B, right? Who won? The next 2 are interesting because they show that the verb tense in the longer question does not affect the creation of the SSNQ. Number 5, I'm going to Europe in July. That's great. Where in Europe are you going? Pause, take some time, see if you can figure out the SSNQ. It's really important to engage in this process and not just speed ahead to the result. There's value in struggling to figure out SSNQs using the 5 rules. And the SSNQ here is where in Europe? Number 6, I went to Europe last summer. Really? Where in Europe did you go? SSNQ, where in Europe? So you can see that in number 5, the future tense is used, and in number 6, the past is used. However, because we don't repeat the verbs, the SSNQ is exactly the same. You might be wondering why we can't just ask where. The reason is because where is already mentioned, Europe. So to ask for a more specific location, we ask where in Europe. This construction can be used in other situations as well. You can ask for more specific locations in a variety of situations. For example, I live in Seoul. Really? Where in Seoul? Or, the tape measure is in the kitchen. Where in the kitchen? And, please get me the ketchup from the fridge. I don't see it. Where in the fridge? And if you don't know, fridge is short for refrigerator. Let's continue to number 7. I joined a club. Nice. What club did you join? SSNQ. What club? Number 8. I bought a new phone. That's great. What kind of phone did you buy? So during these silences, I want you to try and figure out the SSNQ. SSNQ, What kind? Here again, there are often questions. Why is the SSNQ not what phone? Well, because the original question is not what phone did you buy? That's the short and simple answer. Anytime you see what kind in a longer question, the SSNQ will be what kind. You could also shorten the question to what kind of phone, but keeping in mind Rule 2, it would not be an SSNQ. Number 9. I went to France. Cool. When'd you go to France? SSNQ. When? Most of the time, if a longer question begins with when, the SSNQ is going to be when. However, we can also ask when in. For example, my birthday is in March. That's nice. When in March? It would be unnatural to ask, when in March is your birthday? In spoken English. Let's continue. Number 10. I really like that movie. Really? Why do you like that movie? SSNQ. Why? Number 11. I don't like that movie. Really? Why don't you like it? SSNQ. Why not? If you thought the SSNQ was going to be why, that's okay. Sometimes people do just ask why, and it is not a mistake that anyone is going to think twice about unless they are a grammarian. However, the question was not, why do you like that movie? It was, why do you not like that movie? So technically, to be grammatically correct, the SSNQ is, why not? At this point, I'd like to teach you another way to ask why in spoken English and another common SSNQ. How come is an informal way of asking about the reason for something. In another video, I'll give you more examples. For now, we'll just use it in number 12. It can also replace why in numbers 10 and 11. Number 12. I was absent last week. How come you were absent? SSNQ. How come? This has the same meaning as why were you absent? Number 13. I'm going to France next month. Nice. Who are you going there with? SSNQ. Who with? Or with who? Hopefully you're thinking, where in France? As another possibility for an SSNQ. This is possible if the longer question is, where in France are you going? You might be wondering if with whom is a possible SSNQ here. The short answer is yes. However, whom is disappearing from spoken English. Language is always changing, and this is not the first time a word has decreased in use. Whom often sounds overly formal in speech. It would replace the longer, very formal sounding question, with whom are you going to France? We don't really speak like this. While we all learned not to end a sentence with a preposition, the truth is we do it all the time in spoken English. Number 14. She is getting married next month. Really? Who is she getting married to? Or, who is she marrying? Be careful with this one. Review rule number 4. What is the preposition here? A common mistake I hear from Korean speakers is, who is she marrying with? This mistake is the result of translation. We do not use with in this situation in English. So, what preposition do you see at the end of the longer question? This is usually where you'll find the second part of these types of SSNQs that use prepositions. SSNQ, who to, or to who, or to whom. Again, the same thing I said above applies here. You can say to whom, but it will sound more formal. Okay, here the situation is you are at home and you tell your parents or whoever you live with that you are going out. I'm going out. Oh yeah? Where are you going? And this is short for where are you going to go? SSNQ, where to? It is possible to just ask where. However, adding to feels a bit friendlier for some reason. Let's extend the conversation and look at other types of ellipsis to solidify to in your mind. I'm going out. Oh yeah, where to? I'm going to campus to play basketball. Great, have fun. And now with more ellipsis. I'm going out. Oh yeah, where to? To campus. Here it is possible to omit to as well and just say campus. Really? Why? To play basketball. Here you cannot omit to because it is part of the infinitive verb form, though in very informal speech I have heard some people omit it. And finally, great, have fun. Number 16. I'm going shopping. Where are you going shopping? SSNQ, where at? While we do not say at in the longer question, it is implied as we shop at stores. At is used to ask the specific location. Here are a couple natural examples of ellipses in answers to questions to help you grasp this. Where did you leave your phone? At work. So there's no need to say I left it at work. Where did you buy that jacket? At a vintage store. Number 17. There was a fire. Oh no, where was the fire? SSNQ, where at? Number 18. The teacher wants to talk to you. What does she want to talk to me about? Remember what I said about prepositions. Just grab the question word and the preposition from the end of the sentence. SSNQ, what about? With about, you can also reverse the word order and ask, about what? Number 19. I went to the store yesterday. What did you go to the store for? SSNQ, what for? Again, you can reverse the word order with for also and ask for what? Number 20. I went to Japan last weekend. Who did you go there with? SSNQ, with who or who with? Number 21. I was really busy yesterday. What were you busy doing? Remember Rule 5A here. SSNQ, doing what? Number 22. I was up late cooking last night. What were you cooking? SSNQ, cooking what? The last three are going to introduce something new and are perhaps the most challenging SSNQs you will encounter. Number 23. My father and I are a lot alike. In what ways are you and your father alike? Or, how are you and your father alike? SSNQ, in what ways? Or, how so? In what ways and how so ask for examples or evidence to support a statement. How so is short for how can you show that that is so? However, in spoken English we just say how so. The meaning is similar to tell me how you and your father are alike, or tell me the ways that you and your father are alike. In what ways basically means how. Let's look at two more examples and then I'll explain in more detail. Number 24. University and high school are really different. Oh yeah? How are they different? Or, in what ways are they different? SSNQ, how so? Or, in what ways? A common mistake is how different. While this can be an SSNQ, it is short for the longer question, how different are they? Which asks about the degree of difference. Are they very different or a little different? We already know they are really different, so that question would not be asked in this situation. Number 25. She can be so annoying sometimes. In what ways is she annoying? Or, how is she annoying? Hopefully, you're getting the pattern here and you can guess the SSNQ. In what ways? Or how so? So, What's the difference between how so, and how come? How come means why. When asking for reasons to support a statement, how and how so are very similar and can be used interchangeably in most cases. It's a lot to explain, and this video is already quite long. A lot depends on context. For now, you should know that how is more versatile than how so. Here are some examples in context to help you begin to differentiate between how so and how come. It's all about context. Here, how come is the same as why, but the grammar would change. I'll show you. How come you're leaving equals why are you leaving? How come you didn't come to the party equals why didn't you come to the party? How come there isn't any coffee equals why isn't there any coffee? Here, how so is the same as how, or in what ways. The context for each situation is one clarifying a comparison between things. How are these two things similar equals in what ways are these two things similar? How can it be said that these two things are similar? This third one is extremely formal sounding. It is not used in everyday spoken English. However, the SSNQ how so is used in everyday spoken English. How are these two things related equals in what ways are these two things related equals how can it be said that these two things are related? Again, the how can it be said version is extremely formal sounding. I've never heard anybody say it. It's not used in everyday spoken English. However, how so is used in everyday spoken English to replace this very formal sounding question. Well, we've reached the end of the lesson. Congratulations if you are with me here at the end. I hope you've learned a lot. Hopefully you found it useful. With practice, you will be able to master the spoken English shortcut pretty quickly. The SSNQs you learned here are not the only ones. There are many more. You'll find a link in the description below where you can find more SSNQs on my website, and I'll also put a link in the description for a free PDF download of common SSNQs. And remember, if you have a question, pop it into the comment section and never stop learning. And don't forget to subscribe.